In this video, I'll be showing you a simple retrospective technique that you can use for your teams, whether you're a sports team, working with a team at a restaurant, doing software development. This can fit any team, or even in some senses, you can also run it with a group if you don't have a particularly set team, but you do have a group of people that are working together to achieve some sort of outcome. The sequence is following the Agile Retrospectives book here by Esther Derby, Diana Larson. Specifically, when I mentioned the 5 are these steps here: setting the stage, collecting data, generating insights, deciding what to do, and then closing the retro. Now, the reason for running a retro, if you're looking to run this with a team, is to give a team a chance to pause. Think about the team's been going really hard for a month or maybe a couple of weeks, and you decide Friday afternoon, let's sit back, let's talk about what we've done, let's grab some beverages, kick back, and get into a structured conversation about improvement. One of the ways to kick off, if we look at setting the stage, is consider the retrospective prime directive here at the beginning of the retrospective. Read this out so that it helps set that stage or set that mood for getting people out of the possible blame game mentality. You don't want people blaming each other. You don't want them to think that it's been undermining what we've been doing. It's that everybody has been contributing to the best that they could. Let's focus on the best of people when we go into a retrospective meeting. Now, a bit about the setup here. Setting the stage. A check-in can be, for instance, asking people how they feel. What's going on in your life? Any big positives? Any big wins? Perhaps it's a good time to open up a bit on personal conversation while people are settling in. So let's look at this as a frame of a 1 hour duration retrospective. So maybe spend 5 to 7 minutes on that. Just maybe a couple of stories pop up from people within the team. It gives you a chance to slide into the retrospective. Doing a zoom out here just to give you a walk of the board. Before I go into the actual steps. The retrospective here, this is Miro I'm using, M-I-R-O. It's a collaborative whiteboard. You can also use actual physical whiteboard or physical wall space. So if you have Post-its, pencils, people, and paper, you're doing well. I call that the 4 Ps. And this gives you an agenda. So if you need to set out an agenda beforehand, you can use this that you see here. And here is our area for collecting insights. I'll go into these more deeply as I do another run through this for you. Grouping comes later, and then we get into plotting some of the ideas for the topics and how we're going to come to action on these. Okay, so getting us started, overview here. What I'll do is I'll just run through the agenda here. So the introduction is setting the stage, getting the retro ready, checking in on people. So significant events we can then move into. And you can call this maybe even a water cooler time for people to share a little bit about what's going on. Then we get into collecting the data. Do this as an independent and quiet writing exercise. So you may have different people on your team. Some might be very vocal, very communicative. If you don't stop people and let them, give them a moment to, stop talking, just write the stuff out. Blast out some sticky notes, type up some notes if you're using the virtual board over Zoom. So do allow people to take some time to do silent writing for this part. And what they'll do is they'll grab a sticky note either on your physical board, or you put Sharpies and Post-its out on the table, markers and Post-its, or on the virtual board here, they can just grab a sticky note and they can start typing in ideas about their topic onto the sticky note. Give about 7 minutes for this exercise so they can silently write. As a facilitator, ask them to focus on writing, and when they're done, just to respect others' time if they're still writing, to not start any cross conversation, because that tends to unfocus people from this exercise. You want people to just take the time, focus, write out the sticky notes. So you want them to blast out as many sticky notes as they can with the ideas. With the starfish retro that you see here, start means, what do we want to start? What do we want to start doing next time around? Stop. What should we stop doing? We don't want to do something anymore. Maybe it's leading to a bad outcome, or it's not working. It's creating negative sentiment within the team. So do more. Perhaps the team is doing something, they're trying something new, or they found something that really works for them. Do more is you want to amplify what it is that they've been doing. Do less is the flip side of that. Something that the team has been doing no longer is providing value, or maybe it's just too much work for very little outcome. What they want to do is they just want to dampen it. They don't want to do zero of it, but they just want to tame it, pull it back, rein it in. Okay. Once that's done and we have a bunch of topics, what we can do is slide the topics over to the grouping area. So if I have multiple topics, as the facilitator, if you're going to run this for your team, consider looking for topics that start to follow a pattern. So if you grab a topic off of the board and it doesn't match any of the other topics, start a new line. So what we're doing here is we are taking the data that has been provided in the terms of the sticky note, where people have been filling in their thoughts. We go back over to here, collection of the data is recollection of the event since the last retrospective. They're putting that, creating that shared pool by putting it onto sticky notes. But now for generating insights, we're looking for patterns of this data. We want to create a picture, and that's the way that I do this is to put the similar style topics into a line and then give that line a name. So I went ahead and I created some sticky notes here. So what the team would do is they would jot the sticky notes down and place them into the starfish board here. And then the facilitator, or you can also get the team. But sometimes I like to just, if you're starting with the group, do it as a facilitator and drag the groupings over into lines here. So when you see that there's some that follow a particular theme, so there's some theme here about the patio. Okay. What we're seeing with the patio one, here's where we can start to organize this a bit. You notice someone's talking about, looks like a maintenance item. Then there's another one, looks like a flow of people going onto a patio. So we can even split these apart and then topic this one as maintenance for the patio. And this is patio people movement. Perhaps that. The idea here with patio people movement is they're complaining that too many people get stuck at the entrance of the patio and the servers can't move back and forth. So they're always trying to shuffle customers away from a choke point in the patio. And then we can continue on for the others here. We created all the topic summaries for this. And you see there's coffee consistency, new forms of revenue, uniforms, and shop is hot. And this is an interesting one here, because you can talk to the group and whether is it uniforms that's specifically a problem, or that now the temperature is turning into summertime, for instance, and the temperature is getting too hot. Have a conversation with the group and say, do you really hate the uniforms, or is it because of the temperature? And then we can clean up that area. So once all the topics have been summarized and that's set, then we move on to the next part. Is we collected the data, we got the insight grouping done, then we want to do voting. So with voting, we have some options here. An easy option is to do a simple dot vote. So the idea is people will take 3 dots. I like to do a 3-dot vote style. Yeah. And as your facilitation technique gets refined and you do enough of these, you'll be able to reset the amount of dots. Sometimes if there's not enough topics, you might just have people vote 1 dot. If there's mild number of topics, 2 dots. I typically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's 6 of them. 3 dots will be okay. And people can put the dots wherever they want. They can put 3 on one topic, or they can spread them out. So that's a way of doing this. If you're using Miro, so we'll go into a little bit of Miro stuff here. Another way of doing it with Miro is using the voting ability. And what I'll do here is sticky notes only. But this can get a little... I'll put the voting area to here. And then 3 votes, 2 minutes to vote. Start the voting. And then you see that you'd be able to join the voting. I can do something like that, and my voting is done. So Miro has a voting ability for us in the tool. So that's an option that you can use. Okay, in this example, I put the dots on to show that they voted in a manual method like this. You can even, if you're at a whiteboard, just do tally marks with the Sharpie, so you can do strokes on the vote there. Just have people come up to the board, have them grab the dry erase marker and just mark their votes on the board. Okay, so once that's done, then we look at the number of votes. So we have a 4, a 3, and a 2. So given the time in the retrospective, so if we flip from voting to building the plan now, in a 30-minute or 60-minute retrospective, at this point in the retrospective, we want to get about halfway through. I try to get maybe to the 20-minute mark, at least the 30-minute mark at this point, because this is now where the discussion comes into play. Work with your group to find out what works best for them. Sometimes one topic is enough. That gives them enough things to work on in the 2-week cycle or whatever cycle you want between the retrospectives. You really don't want to overload the team with a large number of topics. So what I've seen some teams do is they go through all of the topics and they try to get an improvement action for all of them. What you'll find is that can create an overload for the team. They might not just have enough bandwidth during their time in the next upcoming weeks to action all of those. But if we're focused, the key here is the focus and to get at least something done. And I like teams, if you at least have one topic, I like teams that have one topic, because then I know we can really narrow in on that and get it done. Yes, there might be other things that can be done, but I'll leave that to the team. If they feel they just want to grab something and do it because it's easy for them to fix, I'll let them go ahead and do that. But as far as in this process, and if we're going to formally track something, let's try to keep it to about 3. Again, as I say, I like to focus on just one and to get it done and get it done well. So, for example, here, let's look at the coffee consistency. So what I can do is take a copy of these, move them over here into the topic, and then as the team has a conversation, feel free to take even another color. So sometimes what I do is just to copy one of these. I'm just trying to scribe some of the conversations that they're having. So I'll use a different color sticky note. And if they start to solution and come up with some additional information, then either yourself as a facilitator or nominate a scribe to capture the additional information. So, for example, they were experimenting with different beans. There's complaints about the quality. Someone might say that, machine maintenance. So they might have realized that, the settings are changed. And then someone said, okay, well, what I was trying to do is I was trying to fix the espresso machine. Then it got really busy, and we just kept changing the settings and experimenting, and realized that somebody didn't tell us that the actual machine maintenance wasn't done. And so that led to somebody moving the settings around, creating a different inconsistency, while at the same time somebody was trying different beans. So you have the team come up with an action plan of perhaps for this one, they say, you know what, let's have a standard, they call it standardization of the beans, perhaps. Just have a certain set. Here's our decaf beans, and here's a couple of the general beans. We'll run those, but we won't jump around and change to different ones. It could be that they ran out of beans and started to pull them off the shelf. If that's the case, then we can look at solving that as a different problem. But things might come up during the conversation when the team is talking about the particular problems that they're having. And then another action is the machine maintenance. So we can copy this one over. And they might do that. Schedule time for machine maintenance, perhaps 3 times per shift. Sometimes you have to run water through. I don't know much about coffee shops, so maybe I shouldn't say too much, but I think I heard one time one barista said they had to just blow some water through the machine during some downtime to clean out the old bitter coffee that I think starts building up in these things. But that gives us an idea of some of the actions that we can take. And I know I said something about not doing a couple of topics. Again, you have to leave it to the team and have the team help decide. So they might go ahead and do new forms of revenue. I'm not going to spend time on this. You get the idea of what's going to happen here. Have the conversation, get the team to talk about this, and as they create additional information, just log that information and then move them towards action. Miraboard has a timer here, so you can set a timer for these topics if you do want to have a couple of topics for action. Okay. And then once that is complete, coming back to here, they got some plans built. Now it's the next step, closing out the retro. And what we can look at for closing the retro is doing something like, okay, who's going to own this, or who's going to be the steward in charge of taking care of this? Just say we get John to volunteer, and you can do the same for the others. Just maybe find an owner for that topic. They'll report back next time. So what we could have next time on our retro is a report back with what has been done. So that's a potential thing that we can add here on previous actions. So we can set that for next time when we set up this board. We have our report back for previous actions. So that's a retro in a nutshell. This takes about 60 minutes to execute, leading into some action items. Give this a try. If there's other techniques that you like, leave those in the comments. Do note that I'll put this up on the Patreon. I'll put links in the description below for that. So if you want a template of this, I'll clean this up, provide it as a template. I can also provide a PDF copy as well. So if you want to use that as a reminder sheet so you can sketch out your whiteboard, or put it onto easel poster pads, like the 3M poster pads. They're sticky. You can stick them up to the wall and you can create each of these sections. So that does it for a retrospective. Go, give it a try, and have a great time with your teams.